Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is Gina from McGuire. So a few days ago, I shared my first card and tips showcase video where I focus on a new release and show several cards and lots of tips featuring those products. Many of you said you like this kind of video, so I'm back with another. Now, I won't normally do these kind of videos that often. It'll be maybe once a month or every other month. It just happened to be that there were two great releases very close to each other. So I'll be back to normal videos again in the next one. So this Simon Says stamp release is excellent. As I show you the many products in this release, I will be making some cards. I will admit I'm only going to share the key parts of the card in order to keep the video shorter because there are so many products. However, I will share some tips along the way too. So it's not just showing cards and products, but there will be tips. Okay, let's get started with our first card. I'm going to show how to create that layered background that you see there. This features the new Simon Says Stamp Mod Trees background stamp. I'm putting it into my stamping tool along with a piece of vellum right up against the corner. I'm stamping this very quickly with Stazon Black Ink onto the vellum. Doesn't matter how well it stamps, we're just going to use this as a guide for our layered background. Cleaning this with Hero Arts Ultra Clean. The reason I use Stazon ink is because it dries quickly on vellum, but you could use any other ink as long as you're careful not to smear it or give it time to dry. Okay, now this time I have white cardstock in my MISTI, and I'm stamping with the beautiful Simon Says Stamp Lake Shore ink. Now, before I stamp with the next color, I need to shift that background piece, but I want to make sure I shift it into a position where I can see the trees. So keeping the vellum in the corner of the MISTI, I'm moving my cardstock so you can see how I'm shifting the pattern. Once I'm happy with how these look like they will overlap, I will take my magnet, place it onto the cardstock. You can see my cardstock is moved over and up a bit. Remove the vellum, and then I can stamp with my next color. That way I can be sure that when I stamp this twice, I'm not overlapping too much. So here I'm going to do it a third time. I've put my key, the vellum, into the corner of the MISTI. I shifted my paper behind it, put the magnet on it. This time I'm stamping with Simon Says Stamp Fog Ink, which is a super light gray. So I'm going to double stamp that so it stands out more. So basically I just shifted my paper over and up a little bit different each time, but by creating that guide, I could make sure I got my best results. Okay, so now it's time to create our little deer for this. I die cut this Simon Says Stamp Dancing Deer Die, that's a new one. I die cut it 4 times from Fog cardstock that matches the Fog ink we used on the background. I'm gluing those 4 die cuts together for a nice stacked look. Once I did that, I glued it onto a piece of shimmer vellum. Then I'm just going to go ahead and cut right around the outside edge. So basically, we have a deer that's filled with shimmer vellum. Now I'm using a piece of some ribbon that I have, just old ribbon from my stash. And I like to use ribbon on my die cuts to create a scarf. So I just fold it over. I put some strong liquid adhesive from Gina on it. Use my tweezers to hold it into place, and then once that dries, I can trim the excess off. I also like to fray the ends a little bit, just so it looks like the fringe on the scarf. Now for the background, you'll see I trimmed it down to 4 by 5 1/4 and added it to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding white note card. I'm now adding a little bit of liquid adhesive to the back of the deer, right around the outside edges so you don't see it. And then I'll press that firmly onto my card. You can see how the vellum hides the pattern a little bit at the center of the deer, but still allows a bit to show through. Okay, now I'm using the new Gina Dot Runner adhesive just to put a little bit of adhesive behind the scarf ends so they stay in place. I really like this adhesive, and I'll talk about it more in a future video. Now I used a sentiment from the Simon Says Stamp Punny Animals stamp set. I used the one that says Love You Dearly. I thought it went well with the deer die cut. I'll be using this stamp set again later in this video, but I like that there are lots of punny sentiments that you can use with any critter dies or stamps you may have. Now to make my deer stand out a little bit more, I'm using my Stardust glitter pen just to add sparkle right on that outside outline of our deer. That gives a little bit of a silver shine to it. And then I added a silver gem for his nose. So here you can see that fun background that we created by just stamping the same background 3 times in 3 different colors, but moving it slightly each time with the help of that guide that we created with Vellum. Okay, it's time for another card featuring several of the new Simon Says stamp products. This one features a couple different dies. So I have a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch heavyweight white cardstock. I'm using my T-ruler and the grid on my work surface to help me center this Simon Says stamp Christmas tree stitching die. I'm a big fan of stitching dies, and this one is super easy to use. You just run it through your die cut machine. Any die cut machine would work. And then it pierces all these holes that are perfect for stitching. I'm using my bone folder just to flatten out any marks that the die left next to it. You know, sometimes a die presses like a line. If you want to get rid of that, just use the square end of your bone folder and it'll do the trick. Okay, so now it's time to do some stitching. I'm going to go through this very quickly because I've done many stitching videos in the past, and I'll link to like the basics of stitching on cards up here on the top right corner. There's a video there that you might want to check out. But for this card, I just taped one end to the back of the card, and then I am just going from one side to the other side of the tree in a random pattern. I first used some green floss. There are many types of floss out there that you can use. You could even use a thin baker's twine for this if you want to. So I went through and did this back and forth stitching just randomly with dark green, then medium green, and then light green. It's super easy to do since it's all random. For the top of the tree, I used a small star die from this Honeybee Stacking Stars die set. I used a sentiment from the brand new Simon Says stamp CZ Design Merry die set. This die set has the word Merry in that beautiful style and the shadow die. I used gold glitter cardstock for these, and I stacked them together and glued them on top of the stitching, along with some gold gems. I added this piece onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch green note card, using a piece of craft foam between for some added dimension. Now I could have made a pattern in that tree with the stitching, but a tip for you is to save time, just do random stitching and you get great results. I also have another example I made. I'm just going to show you how I set this one up, but it also uses that same Christmas tree stitching die. I'm again starting with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch heavyweight white cardstock piece, and I'm finding the center point and drawing lines there. Now I'm going to use the tree die and line up the ends with the middle point and cut that. Then I'll rotate this and I'll cut again, lining up the 2 end holes. So we end up with kind of like a diamond shaped pattern. You could do a variety of different patterns this way if you wanted to create some fun, unique backgrounds with that Christmas tree die. So I just did some stitching between all of the holes, kind of like I did on the last example, but I just made X's and lines. Now in the center of that, I added a sentiment that says, "Thank you for being my bestie." Now this is from another new set from Simon Says Stamp and CZ Designs. I also used this sentiment on the matching envelope. Here's a closer look at that bestie stamp set. I stamped some of the words and I used the coordinating dies that are available to cut them out so you could see what they look like. I'm really excited about this set. I like the style of the words and the large size, and that you can build up sentiments such as "You are my person," "Thank you for being my friend," "You are always there for me." A lot of great things you can build up here and give to your best friends. Most of my cards go to my friends, so this set is one I'll use often. Okay, let's go back to making some holiday cards. Now this one features several new products, and I create 2 different backgrounds and then add some die cutting to it. Now the first background is simple thanks to this new Simon Says Stamp Outline Snowflake stamp. I really like this background stamp because it has thin lines and a large pattern, so it's subtle on a background. You could do some fun techniques where you color in the outline images, do some watercolor, resist over heat embossing, lots of things. But here I'm just doing tone on tone. Okay, next I wanted to create another background using the stripes in this stamp set that you see. This is the Simon Says Stamp Critter Sweaters stamp set. So there are these dies on the left, and you can create a cat, a bear, or a bunny. And on it, you can create a fun Christmas sweater using the stripe stamps that are in the stamp set. You can add the bear, bunny, or cat face, and also a sentiment. So you can make some really cute guys with this. But instead of doing that, I'm going to use those stripe images all together to create a background image. This is one of my favorite things to do with stamp sets that have shapes or stripes, is to keep them together and stamp them all at once. There's no sense taking them off of the packaging when they're already lined up perfectly. So we'll be creating this area that you see here on the bottom. It's a mix of those stripe patterns and some sentiments, but we're doing the stripes first. I removed the other images from that stamp set, so all I have are the stripe stamps on the packaging. I'm putting a piece of tape at the top of the packaging, and I'm lining it up in my MISTI with my paper. Now I have the sticky part of that tape facing up. I'll close the door on my MISTI, flip it over, carefully open it, and press that tape into place. I'm now going to put more tape around the sides. So basically, I'm putting the stripe stamps into my MISTI door by taping them there. Instead of removing them all and sticking them onto the door, they're already lined up nicely on the stamp set. So I thought I'd go ahead and leave it this way. Now I can go ahead and stamp that stripe pattern onto my cardstock. Now I'm going again for a tone-on-tone look, so I have pool colored cardstock, and I'm using Hero Art's Tide Pool ink. I'm double stamping that so it shows up a little bit more. Okay, now I thought it'd be fun to add some sentiments, some tiny sentiments, into those open areas between the stripes. I'm using the new Simon Says Stamp Tiny Words Christmas stamp set. Simon came out with a set like this that was non-holiday a few months ago, and I loved it and I use it a lot. So I'm excited that there's a Christmas set now too. A lot of different sentiments and styles of holiday greetings are included in here. So what I'm doing is I'm lining one up between some of the stripes in my background, and I'm stamping it again a couple times to make it stand out more. Then I just shift it over in my MISTI. It's okay if the paper kind of hangs out the side, no problem at all. I'm shifting it over so that I can stamp the same sentiment again, just a little bit to the right, but it'll still be lined up with the first one. So I'm basically creating stripes of sentiments in between the stamp stripes we already have. So since that stamp set had so many different greetings, I used a bunch of them to add some interest to this background. It took me about 10 minutes to do this, but I liked having all of those occasions into the background so that it matched the theme of the card. This is just another way you can get more out of your sentiments and your other images such as stripes to create a background. Later in this video, I'll show another example of adding sentiments to a background image. After I completed this, I trimmed this down along with the blue snowflake piece so they'd be smaller backgrounds on the card. Next, I want to add some die cutting. I'm using a small snowflake from the Snow Flurries die set that's on the left. That's an older one from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm also using the new large Alicia and Rina snowflake dies that you see on the right. Those are new, and I really like the style of them. And I thought it'd be fun to have 3 different snowflakes on the card, 3 different sizes. I'm using a sentiment from the new Simon Says Stamp Holiday Words on a Line die set. There are 5 dies in this set, and they cut tiny little sentiments along with a thin line underneath. So it's this fun border die cut. There are the words So Thankful, Joyful Wishes, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and Season of Thanks. I'm using Joyful Wishes. I like that you can adhere this straight along your card as a border, or you can kind of force it into a wave so it looks like a snowbank. Okay, so I have my two little background pieces that I put together, and I have a piece of silver glitter cardstock where they meet. Now I'm putting a little liquid adhesive on the back of my border sentiment, and I'll line it up right against the silver glitter cardstock. If you really wanted to, you could even cut those tiny little letters off and use them wherever you want on a card. But I like how it's attached to the line so that they're very easy to place. So I trimmed that down, added it to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch note card, and then I added those 3 snowflake white die cuts, along with a few silver gems. So you can see how I have 2 backgrounds on here, one that I did quickly with a background stamp, and one that I created myself using 2 other stamp sets that aren't normally used for backgrounds. Again, this is a great way to get more from your stamp sets. And by the way, I used that large outline snowflake stamp to stamp on the flap of the matching envelope. I really like when those patterns match up perfectly. It really gives a nice finished look to your handmade card. Okay, now I have a completely different look for you in this next card. This is actually a shaped card, which is really easy to do with a large stamped image. I'm using this new Simon Says stamp set that is 6 by 8, so it's a large set. And you can see that that wreath of shells is very large. I love going to the ocean, so this wreath of shells is a winner for me. And I know many of you live in warmer climates during the holidays, so maybe this would work for you too. So I stamped that image with black ink on white cardstock and colored it in. I then folded my white cardstock over as I cut it out. The reason I folded it is that I'm cutting 2 wreaths at once. One will be the one that you see on top that is stamped and colored. The other will be the exact same size and shape, but just from plain white cardstock. If you have a coordinating die, you could use that to cut the 2 pieces. But if you don't, this is an easy trick. By using folded paper, the folded score line keeps them connected in the right way as you cut. So the solid white piece will serve as the back of the card. So I'm lining this up in my scoreboard. I'll remove the front panel, and then I'll do a score line towards the top of this piece, about a 1/2 inch from the top. This will not be a fold line, but instead just a hinge that will allow our card to open and close easily. So I'm laying this piece flat down, putting adhesive above that hinge. You want to make sure that's strong adhesive. Then you can put the front onto it, and there you will have a shaped card. And that little hinge that we created will allow the card to open and close nicely. There's plenty of room to write a message on the inside, and I just added a simple stamp sentiment to the center. And by the way, this ends up fitting nicely into a regular envelope, so that's a real big plus for me. I added some shimmer pen to that ribbon so it has a little sparkle to it, and there you have a fun and unique holiday shaped card. Now that sweet and small joy to the world sentiment is from this new Simon Says Stamp CZ Designs ornamental stamp set. There are lots of small sentiments that fit into small circular areas like these ornaments, and those are always handy to have. I like that the coordinating dies cut out the shapes and the words, which is something that CZ Designs always does, and I really like that. I also like the style of the wishing you the happiest of holidays on the bottom. And there's a blessing sentiment, which is always a winner for me. Okay, the next stamp set I just wanted to show you is the Simon Says Stamp Winter Scenes stamp set. This has that nice frame with lots of different images you can stamp inside, along with several different sentiment options that fit along the bottom. Now I did create a card with this, but this video is way too long to show all the steps that I did. I might turn it into an Instagram stories video so you can check it out over there, but I wanted to show you the card. It's pretty basic. I stamped the frame, and I also added the houses, trees, and the deer. I stamped the wishing you a Merry Christmas repeatedly in the sky with a soft pool ink, and then I stamped it once with black ink. I used that outline Snowflakes background stamp on the back with just a soft pool ink on white cardstock. I add a little bit of shading with a soft pool Copic marker, and I added lots of shimmer to the snow using a regular shimmer pen, and I used the Midas Touch Gold shimmer pen on the star so it would have extra shine. So just wanted to show you this example. That winter scene stamp set is a really fun one, and there is a coordinating die set. Now before we move on to the non-holiday products in this release, I wanted to show you a few more holiday products that I didn't get a chance to use. This is the Simon Says Stamp Christmas Wishes stamp set. I'm often asked what I stamp inside of my cards. Well, this stamp set has many things that would work for the inside of holiday cards, so I encourage you to take a close look at it. There are also some dies in this release that I like. This is the Simon Says Stamp Happy Christmas. This cuts the words Happy Christmas, and there is the shadow die. So you can see how large this is. I'm holding it on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card, so you can get an idea of the sizing. This is one of those where you can keep a card very simple and add that beautiful sentiment in the center. These are the Simon Says Stamp Snowflake Tags. I like that 2 tags are included in the set, and it has 2 different snowflake designs. There's room right above it to do the to and from, and you could do some fun shaker effects with this if you wanted to also. This is the Simon Says Stamp CZ Designs 30 Days of Thankful stamp set. This is a large 6x8 stamp set that actually came out a few weeks ago, but I wanted to show it to you today as it'll be one of my favorites of 2018. This has many sentiments that aren't just for Thanksgiving, such as whenever I count my blessings, you always top the list, or blessed beyond measure, many different things you can put together, nice classic designs that will work with lots of different cards. There are also many sentiments that would work for any kind of gratitude journaling you may do, or for the inside of cards. I didn't want you all to miss this stamp set, but I definitely will be using it in a future video. And by the way, there are coordinating dies available for this, and it cuts out all of the large words. So when this stamp set was released, there were also a couple dies released. This is the Simon Says Stamp CZ Design Thankful 1 dies. This cuts out the word thankful, which I did from gold cardstock, and then the shadow die too, which I cut from white cardstock. It's a very classic look, and here you can see what it looks like on a typical note card. This is the Thankful 2 die set, which has the fun cursive look. I really like this for an elegant card, and you can see it looks beautiful cut from the gold mirror cardstock. It's also a nice size that works well either horizontal or vertical. But my favorite of these Simon Says Stamp CZ Design dies is this Thanks. Again, it has the word thanks and then the shadow die. And you can see how this really fills a card nicely. Because you've got that classic look, you can use it with any different stamps you may have, and it works well on a horizontal or vertical card. I encourage you to check this one out. I don't have many thanks dies that are non-script, so this is a great option. Okay, back to this release, there is the Simon Says Stamp You're So Kind die. This is a block die, and it cuts out the letters. You can put the center of the O's and the R back in place if you want to. It's nice because it can be added just about anywhere on a card. You can also cut off the words You're So and just have the word kind and use it along with a sentiment stamp. There is also in this release another from CZ Design, and this is the Babe die set. You've got the word and the shadow with this one. Okay, we're going to get back into making some cards, and I'll be using a few of the new Simon Says Stamp Big Picture Book animals. Now, the Big Picture Book dies are something that they've been coming out with lately. They used to have a smaller version, and this time they've come out with the puppy, the bear, Jack Russell, Koala, and Raccoon, and those are the ones that you see here. You can see these are large enough to use on a card or make your own shaped card with them. There are also some body parts to work with it. Here we have the tails on the left, so there are a variety of different animal tails. On the right, you have the big body. I'll be using these two in today's example. And there are also some legs that you can use. These are funny looking dies, but when you put them with the animal head, it just creates a full body. And I'll be using the die that you see on the left. So I actually have a card, a regular card, and then a shaped card example to share with you. And remember earlier when I showed you the punny animals stamp set? These work really well with these big picture book dies. So remember to keep those in mind when you're looking at the different animals available. I'll be using these on my next 2 cards also. Okay, so my first card features the koala, and then I added the body to him. But let's first start with the background. This is another example of taking a background stamp image and changing it up by adding some sentiments. So I have a white note card in there that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And onto it, I'm stamping the older Simon Says Stamp plank background. I think this came out in their last release. I'm inking it up with Simon Says Fog Ink. I use this one a lot. It's a nice light color. It's like a warm gray that seems to work as a background for pretty much any card that you want to do. Now, after I stamped that, I thought it'd be fun to add in the sentiment that says, "You're pantastic." Instead of fantastic, it's pantastic. And I stamped that repeatedly in some of the openings of that background stamp. This is kind of like what we did before with the sentiments and the stripes, but in this case, I'm just doing it randomly just to add a little bit of interest. I will also go back and add some tiny hearts to the background too, all with the same color of ink. It's now time to assemble the koala. So I'm adding a little belly of white cardstock onto the body, and this I cut from the Fog cardstock also. Now you'll notice when you cut the koala face, it pops out the eyes and the nose. All I like to do to put them back in place is put some tape on the back of the die cut, flip it over, and then I can pop the nose and eyes back in place because the stickiness will be exposed. Now I also do the same to add the ears in place. I'm just using some purple tape for this, but you could use Scotch tape or whatever you want. Now I find this to be an easy way to then add the entire piece onto my card with foam tape. If you just want to glue everything directly onto a card, you could do that too. Here I'm coloring the nose and the eyes with black ink, and now I can pop them into place right where that tape is exposed, so it'll stay put just fine. So now I have the body and the head, and I can put foam tape on the back of each of those to add to the card. I also have a red glitter heart that I put some foam tape behind, and I'm adding that into his hands. I like that this body die cut creates the little hands, so you can put different things in it, and I thought the heart was perfect. So now I have the foam tape on the back of the body and the head, and I can place it towards the bottom of my card. I like how easily this comes together, and you can change out the head of this animal to be the cat, the bear, the raccoon, anything you want. So there you can see the finished card, and I added glossy accents to his eyes and nose so they had some shine. And I also added a sentiment from that punny animals stamp set. Lila liked this card, so we'll have to make a few more for some of her friends. Okay, next I wanted to use the big picture book dies to create a shaped card that stands. And of course I had to use the puppy. So in this case, I die cut the puppy face, and I'm gluing it onto another piece of cardstock so that the back of his head will be solid. I then am going to cut this out right along that die cut edge. It's a pretty basic shape, so it's easy to do. I then have his ears and the spot for around his eye, and I'm holding it with some tape while I color it with a Copic marker. I couldn't find a slightly darker color of cardstock, so coloring it seemed easy. So I added glue behind where his eyes and nose go, and I'm popping those into place. And then I can also glue on his ears. I die cut 2 of the legs die so that I had a front and a back. For the back die cut, I'm doing a score line close to the top. Again, this will act as a hinge. So I'm just kind of reinforcing it with my bone folder. I'll put some strong liquid adhesive above that line, and I'll glue this to the back of his front legs. Now you'll notice on his front legs there are some spots. I actually just cut a couple extra ears, colored them, and then glued them kind of hanging off the body and trimmed it to create those spots. Next, I'm using strong adhesive to add his head in place. You want to be sure to use a strong adhesive because you don't want him to fall apart. And then I have the cute little tail to add to the back. So here we actually formed a shaped card that will stand up. Now this only has a little room on the inside to write a message, but you could also use it just as like a placeholder or as a little party favor. It's just so much fun to assemble. I wanted my puppy to go to a party, so I decided to cut 2 triangles to the same size, and I added some blue stripes to them. I'm gluing one of the triangles at the top of his head on the front and the other on the other side, so he has a fun little party hat. I like the front and the back of this card to look nice, so it's fun to add the party hat to the back and the tail there. Now that little yellow piece that we'll put at the top of the party hat, that was actually one of the tails that's included in the tail die set. I added It's Potty Time from that same Punny Animals stamp set and glossy accents to his eyes and nose so they have some shine. All right, well there you have it, a really crazy fast packed look at this newest Simon Says stamp release. I hope seeing these cards with tips was helpful. If you want to see these products, they are linked in my YouTube description below, right below the video. You can go to my blog to see much more information and more photos. In the middle are a couple other videos for you to watch. Thanks for spending this long time with me. I hope you have a great day and we'll see you again very soon.